Hello to you, beautiful soul. How are you doing today? I hope that you are truly, truly well in all areas of your life. I have been traveling a bit and teaching a bit with people from all around the world, light workers, healers, and coaches who are inspired deeply to share their message with the world. And part of the way I help people do that is through media and publishing and mentoring on how to get your message clear, concise, and compelling. And it was interesting because one of the conversations that came up was, how do you maintain your spiritual core while you're dealing with a very sometimes egoic world? As soon as you want to step onto stages where you're at big events or step into the media, like being on TV or radio, there comes this moment where you realize, if you're a spiritual or heart-centered entrepreneur, if you really feel like you're living your soul's purpose, then the way that you do things is a little different than maybe the way you did things 10, 20 years ago, or the way you behave and the way you want to carry yourself forward is a little different than some of the people out there in this 3D world who are still kind of just, playing the roles, living in these predefined areas and boxes. And so I thought I would just share a little bit about the insight that has come to me over the last 20 years in the media, and that is around the idea of ego. Now, if we looked at what people think of as ego, they generally think of this big, grandiose personality. If someone says, "Oh, you have a big ego," they're typically meaning that you have a lot of confidence, or maybe you brag a lot, or you think really highly of yourself. But I want to invite you to look at it from the standpoint of psychology. Because in psychology, we know that the ego is just a construct. It is something that we construct or we develop in our lives when we start to realize that we're separate from our mothers. So if you go back to in the womb, when you're in your mommy's tummy, you feel complete oneness. So we are coming from oneness, if you believe that we come from a spiritual realm of pure connectedness and pure potentiality. And then we're swimming in our mom's tummy in this amniotic fluid for 9 or 10 months, and we feel complete oneness. All of our needs are met instantly. And then we come out into the world. And that is where we start to realize over those first couple of years of life that I am separate from my mother, that I am. Because before that, we don't really have any sense of self-consciousness. We think everything is the self. And so from a psychological perspective, as soon as you start to develop this ego consciousness, this self-awareness, you start to realize that there are causes and effects. So it used to be when you were in the womb, you didn't have to cry out for food. You just received everything from the umbilical cord. But later, as we move around, we realize, gosh, I'm feeling these pangs of hunger. And you cry out, and then somebody feeds you. Or you're cold and you're wet. You cry out, and somebody changes your diaper. But the other thing that we start to notice, based on what the caregivers around us, is there are certain things that we can do that lead us towards more pleasure, whether that's pleasure of being held and rocked and comforted, or it's the pleasure of getting our needs met like food. But we also start to learn as we get older and older that there's some things that we do that some people don't like. There's some things that we do that people prefer that we do. And that's how we start to develop this sense of I, and the sense of what is safe for me, where I will gravitate towards the things that bring me pleasure, or I will do the things that can relieve pain or keep me away from pain. And so the ego, this sense of self-identity, is a construct. It's not the real you. Because if you were, again, to go back to birth or even in the womb, you're actually a sense of consciousness. The real you is a pure awareness. It's energy, it's consciousness. You are the witness that has come into human form to play in this world for a while as many different roles and responsibilities. And what you've inherited is this earth suit. And part of being in an earthly vessel means that you start to develop a sense of self-awareness, and the ego as a construct is meant to help you survive. So the ego is based in pure survival instincts. What can I do that will keep me moving towards things that help me survive? That's the love, the belongingness, getting my needs met. And what do I do to avoid the pain of rejection or loss or trauma? So we all have an ego, big or small. We all have an ego, and it's meant to help us survive in life. And so the ego's orientation is all about survival. Now, you're an adult now. You want to do good things in the world. You've got some skills and abilities. You want to help people heal or grow or thrive in their business or in their relationships or in life. And so you're really driven by this big heart of compassion that you have to see people do well. Now, it's wonderful when you happen to come face to face with a client or a group of people who are aligned with that same vision or mission. But what happens when you start to really put yourself out there as a luminary, shining your light? You're going to attract all kinds of people, not just the heart-centered ones. Sometimes you're going to be around people whose egos are still based in those basic needs of survival, of getting ahead, of belonging, of feeling important. Whereas you may have already gotten to a state of recognizing, hey, we're all in this together. We are one. If I do well and I help you do well, we all thrive. So there's this consciousness difference that I want to invite you to explore. When you're in ego consciousness, then you're thinking of this earthly vessel as the real you. And so, of course, things are going to look threatening to you. But when you're in soul consciousness, when you are in this awareness that you are a being of light, a sensitive, intuitive being of soul consciousness, then you start to realize that the qualities of the soul are pure. They're purity, love, enrichment, uplifting, inspiration, integrity, wisdom. Those are the true attributes of the real you. So it really depends at any moment. If you ask yourself, if you feel something coming on, maybe you feel your ego feeling like it needs to protect you, you're looking at someone as if they're a threat to you, or you're suddenly feeling like you have to defend yourself or you're competing, then it's a moment for you to start to engage in what I call the attunement process. It's a 5-step mindfulness meditation practice to help you tune back into your heart and into your soul and put into perspective what your ego or your body or the environment is trying to show you. So I want you to be friendly with the ego because it's merely there to help you survive. And so, let's say that you're starting to feel threatened, that someone is somehow posing a threat to your success or your vitality or your position in the tribe. If you at once feel, what is it? What does it feel like in your body? Or what are the symptoms and signs going on either in your physical body or in your mind? Is there a sense of tension that comes up in the body? The first step of the attunement process is allow. Allow yourself to become aware and a witness to what's going on. Now, many times as spiritual people on our path, we think, oh my God, I'm feeling anger. What's wrong with me? And we try to stuff it away. Anything that feels quote unquote negative in your mind means that you're in judgment, because there really is no negative or positive. There are just energies that come up. Now, the consequences that they create may be favorable or less favorable, but if you would look at the energy and the information coming up through your emotions as neutral, it's merely there to serve as a reminder, to serve as a guidepost, to serve as a messenger. Our feelings are messengers. So in step 1, I want you to just be open and curious rather than stuffing down those feelings or judging yourself for having them. Acknowledge that, whoa, there's some energy present. Jealousy, anger, fear, or maybe it's just tension. And you ask yourself, you know that your ideal state is to be at ease, to be relaxed, to be in a state of flow, generously giving from your heart and receiving. That, if you think of an ideal, that's where we want to be. So anything that is different from that, whether it's rigidity, tension, a locked jaw, a rumbling in your stomach, a sense of judgment, a fear that makes you feel like you want to hide and protect yourself, then get open and curious and ask, what's going on here? What is really going on? And who am I being right now? Am I being my highest self, the soul that is conscious and aware, using this human apparatus? Or am I being the ego? That could be, that wounded child from many, many years ago that did feel threatened on the playground or did feel judged by a coach or a parent. Ask yourself, who am I being right now? Because as a healer, as a light worker, as a soul conscious coach, you know that you want to always be coming from the highest version of yourself. And so ask, who am I being? Because in step one, when we allow ourselves to just see what's going on, feel what's coming up, acknowledge it, witness it, and ask it, what's your message? This is what's going to allow our stress response to come down. This is where I invite you to take 5 deep breaths, like slowly. Maybe even hold for a second or two, and then exhale. When you do that 5 times, you're instantly telling the brain, I'm not really in serious danger now, so get me out of the stress response and get me into the relaxation response. And so as you breathe and you start becoming aware, what am I feeling? What am I thinking? Who am I being right now? Am I being my highest self? Am I coming from soul consciousness? Or am I coming from ego consciousness? And just that awareness alone can sometimes give you the insight that you need to move forward. Now, the next thing that you really want to think about is, am I expressing the highest values of me? And one of the highest values for any human is a sense of compassion. And so step 2 of the attunement process is to attune with the energy of love and compassion. And guess what? It's not love and compassion for the people out there. I'm inviting you to first have love and compassion for yourself. And so again, as we look at that ego, if it is this wounded, scared aspect of the earth self, you can compassionately say, oh, precious one, I can see that you're suffering. Oh, I understand now why you're afraid. This situation reminds you of when your sister, caught you doing something and berated you. Or, yeah, this does feel like that situation where you were teased on the playground or when you made a mistake in class. You can offer compassion to that aspect of this earth self, this construct that feels the need to hide or run or judge or blame or feel shame, because that's part of the human experience that we all go through. So by offering this aspect of the ego personality compassion, you're giving yourself compassion for feeling what is just normal. It doesn't mean you're any less effective as a light worker. It doesn't mean that you're bad or wrong or that you're not as advanced as you thought you were. It just means that for many, many years, there's an aspect of the earth self that has had some wounding and feels the need to flare up. And so by getting in touch with the body and finding out what's there and then offering it compassion, offering even your body, I'm so sorry that you had to carry this tension. May you be free from suffering. May you be truly well in body, in mind, and in heart. Oh, I pray that you get through this situation and once again connect to the true happiness that is free from suffering. May you be at ease. When you can give that sense of compassion, often that wounded ego, that inner child, is able to calm down. You've already taken some deep breaths. You've shown it that this isn't a bully that we have to fight or run from. You're giving that sense of the earth construct of you the ability to recognize I'm okay, I'm safe, and I'm cared for by a loving, compassionate, and present adult figure. That's you. And then we move into step 3, which is to align. Align your mind with the highest mind. Could be the divine mind, the mind of love or peace or God. By opening up and saying, I want my mind to be guided by peace, or the highest expression of you that you imagine, or the God mind, the divine mind. What you're saying is, while my ego may want revenge, or want to fight, or want to protect, or want to run, I know that there is a higher state of wisdom available to me, because that's who you are. You're on this path to live your best and live your highest. And so we ask, may I be guided by the mind of peace? May my mind be guided by the highest mind. So you align your mind with the divine mind, which means that sometimes the situation in front of you, you're not going to go for the egoic solution. You're actually going to choose to take the path that will lead to the greatest amount of peace and healing for everyone. So that's what aligning the mind is. And sometimes you'll get an impulse or an inspiration that comes to you of telling you what to do next. But if not, step 4 is to ask for inspiration. Step 4 is about inspired action. So rather than taking any action, you actually ask or you wait for the inspiration to act, which means you're going to be taking action that's aligned with the highest state of consciousness possible that's available to you in that moment. Or you just decide to wait until that inspiration comes to you later when you really have a chance to cool down. So even though we as healers and coaches feel like we need to know everything and be, snapping into judgment and action, there are times when we have to honor the fact that we're in a human body. And by having a human experience, we have this ego that has its triggers, its reactions, based on the repeated pathways that have been grooved into our brain over time. And so sometimes you just need to take a breather. Take that inspired action when it comes. Now, the 5th step of the attunement process is appreciation. If you can end every kind of mindfulness session with an attitude of gratitude, looking at what in your environment or in every situation is something that you can appreciate and savor, look for the good, because you want to stay in this bubble of positivity. So you might, if you're in the midst of a conflict with someone, you might thank them. Thank you for being open and brave enough to tell me how you're really feeling. Even if you need a little bit of time, I'm going to get back to you when I've had a chance to reflect on this. Or you can just thank yourself internally, like, wow, thank you for not blowing up and losing your cool. If you're doing this in meditation, where maybe you've excused yourself and you're sitting in your office or your car or you're in the bathroom, you can just literally tune into that attitude of appreciation. What can I appreciate right now? I appreciate the fact that I'm alone and I have this moment to myself. I appreciate that I'm sitting on a very comfortable cushion and I'm just going to focus on the peace that is here and right now. Hopefully you've seen that through all of this, what we're doing is removing the sense of judgment. Judgment for ourselves, judgment for others, judgment for our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors. And instead, we're aligning with the highest state of consciousness that's possible to us in the moment. So I recognize this can be a little challenging, but with this 5-step framework and going through this process of first, allow yourself to take 5 deep breaths and get present to what is here. Get present to what the energy in motion is trying to deliver as a message. What are those emotions, those feelings, those thoughts? Is it tension? Is it the ego flaring up? Give it the opportunity to be seen and heard and acknowledged without judgment or stuffing it away. Step 2 is to attune to love and compassion. Tune into what it feels like to truly be present with a wish that you not suffer. that you not suffer, that the people around you not suffer. Like, get in tune with what it feels like to be that highest state of consciousness that says, my precious, I don't want you to suffer. I want that you are truly well. When you can feel that for yourself, it's much easier to feel that for someone else and to get into that state of non-judgment about what they're doing. You recognize that it's really not personal. Ego to ego is not person to person, because who you are is not the ego, and who they are is not their wounded ego. It's this invitation to connect with compassion is to recognize that we are two spiritual beings having a human experience, and part of our repetitive patterns and programs and habits, our ways of being, sometimes they're very egoic based. But as we're on this path of ascending into our highest state of being, that's what we're all trying to get to, every one of us. So by connecting with compassion, you can hopefully connect with the heart and the soul of the person with you, or the people with you. Step 3, you'll remember, is to align your mind with the mind of the divine, or the highest mind possible to you. Love, peace, acceptance. And it's inviting the ego to let go of your way or the way you think things should be and say, there is probably another way for life to unfold with the greatest ease and the greatest soul virtues available. And I'm open to that. Just be open to that. Step 4 is to ask for or act on inspiration and not take action unless it's truly that heartfelt, inspired action that you know is going to lead you and your situation to the highest good. This is a perfect time for you to recommit to who you say you are in the world and what you want to experience in your life. Who do you want to be? If you truly want to be the highest version of yourself, then you say, let me be guided in such a way that I take action that is in alignment with my true values, like expressing the highest version of me possible. And step 5 is appreciation, ending with an attitude of gratitude for whatever you possibly can, to feel that sense of positivity flowing around you and within you is going to keep you aligned into that soul realm. So I hope that this was somehow helpful to you. I know that it's sometimes a struggle for us, and we can very easily judge ourselves when we feel like we're tiptoeing into this lower state of being or this egoic clamoring for attention or whatever. And just recognize that's part of the human experience. The ego is a construct. It has been built and repetitively reinforced over time, sometimes over millennia. But you're strong enough. The light in you, that big compassionate heart of yours, is strong enough to help you rise up to the highest expression, to the highest states of consciousness that you truly are. And you are on a path to fully embodying the true light that you are, the true love and compassion that we all are connected with. And so I know that you will continue to thrive and to prosper. So give yourself a break if things come up. Forgive yourself, give yourself compassion, and then realign and recommit to living as the highest version of you. It's the you that I know that you are. It's the you that I connect with when we are present together. And it's the you that I am sending out beams of love and happiness and support from the sunny south of France. Remember that you are a gift to the world, so share your presence with passion. Much love.